When the Africans tell stories about their animals, they usually call the lion chief. They look at all the creatures on the plains and they see them living together like a tribe. They see each kind of animal as an individual with its own personality. Preoccupied lovebird, priestly giraffe, grumpy elephant, feisty mongoose, athletic gazelle, enterprising dung beetle, comical secretary bird. They're all part of the lion's tribe, which wages a constant battle of wits against the crocodile and his tribe. The stories are told for fun, of course, but different kinds of animals do seem to have different characters. So, do the animals really live up to their parts? All of them are found on the East African grasslands, of which Kenya is a central country. So, Kenya is a good place to go to find the lion in his domain. The lions and their tribe inhabit some of the richest land in the world. The soil here came straight out of volcanoes, and its grass supports a forest-sized weight of grazing animals. They, in turn, support about a dozen different kinds of large predators, the largest of which are the lions. Nothing eats lions. Nothing can defeat them in an even fight. So nothing tries. Lion or lioness, the animal's life is one of relaxed authority. It sleeps undisturbed for 16 hours a day. When hungry, it hunts and eats. And when not sleeping, hunting or eating, it's usually surveying its realm. It's easy to understand why the people, when they see a lion, see a chief. But of course, the pride is the chief's real tribe, a family of females taken over last year by this lion and his brother. The two of them will keep their position for maybe 3 or 4 more years before some younger lions come along and throw them out. In the meantime, the lion's son, this cub, will be grown and will be roaming the grasslands, trying to take over a pride of his own. A male lion is a chief for a while, until he's killed by younger lions or is left to hunt for himself and to die alone. But when the stories speak of the lion's tribe, they of course mean tribe in a larger sense, in much the same sense as the scientific word ecosystem, everything interacting with everything else. This is a rich ecosystem with a huge cast of interacting characters, including many large and spectacular birds, such as crowned cranes. But there is one huge problem here. Water. The grass is only like this in the wet season. In the dry season, this place is a desert. Drought forces most of the animals to leave this land until it rains again. When the rains return and the wet season starts again, the first grazing animals to make their way back are the Thompson's gazelles. The grass here is especially rich in calcium and phosphorus and good for growing bones. And with the long wet season ahead, the first thing the gazelles do is give birth to their calves. Different grazers usually eat different kinds of grass, and gazelles favour the very short new shoots, which is why they had to get here first. They have a finer nose for distant impending rain than any of the other animals. And when the gazelles sense it, they come fast. By the time the zebras, wildebeests and other antelopes arrive, the main items on the lion's menu, the gazelles are already well established. By arriving fast and having calves right away, they become the only large grassland animals that are able to give birth again before the wet season's over. They do almost everything quicker than other grazers, including avoiding lions. The most important thing a gazelle does in its life is to get to its feet, for its legs are its main tool of survival. An adult's top speed is 45 miles an hour, faster than any other antelope in Africa, faster than any other mammal, except its main predator, the cheetah. One African story says that the gazelle's baby and the cheetah's baby used to be friends, but that the calf accidentally killed the cub, and ever since then, the mother gazelle has had to run whenever it sees the mother cheetah. In the 19th century, when Europeans began to explore these grasslands, they seemed to see something strange and new almost every time they turned around. This. What kind of a bird is this? It walks around like a flightless bird, an ostrich or a bustard. But its nest is at the top of a tree. The Europeans called it the secretary bird because it looked like a long-legged 19th century secretary or scribe with his quills behind his ear. But what was it? What is it? Though it walks a lot, it can fly too when it needs to go to its nest. In the air and at the nest, it stops looking like a bustard and starts looking like a bird of prey. And it feeds its chick from its crop, like a pigeon. Like a hawk or an eagle, it's an expert at killing snakes. To the Europeans, it was just one more thing to wonder about in a land where even the horses had stripes, like tigers. In fact, scientists are still not sure whether the secretary bird, with its 6-foot wingspan, is related to the birds of prey. Or whether, with its long legs, it's closer to the bustards. They do agree, though, that it's not particularly close to anything. It's the only member of its very own zoological family. The Africans are a little more sure about the bird. It's a good-natured comedian who likes to play tricks on the other animals and who's handy to have around a farm or a house because it eats so many insects. The dry season's on its way, and it's time for everybody to get up and go. When the grass begins to die, wildebeests make the most massive land migration in the world. There can be 500,000 animals in a single herd, and they have 200 miles ahead of them. And there are lions along the way, making the journey tougher. Zebras, gazelles, and others go too. No one's left in what's now a desert, except the lions and the other predators and the creatures that feed on the leaves of trees. Occasionally, the animal army stops and rests and drinks. But mainly, it marches on. The herd's destination is a region of scrubland where there's always some food, but nothing remotely as nutritious as that good volcanic grass. So the wildebeests will spend the dry season eating inferior vegetation and ticking over until it's time to make the 200-mile trip back. Meanwhile, life on the road is still life. Even though it's out of season, some mothers are still calving. And as relentless as the drive onwards may be, the wildebeests still have to pause and graze from time to time, which gives the males a chance to sort out their social status and negotiate their mating privileges. And they are negotiating. The language of these muscular animals is in their whole bodies. The feints with the horns and the bursts of speed are their ways of telling stories. I can escape the lion. I'm fit. I'm a survivor. The zebra foal explains that he was born fit and is destined to lead the herd. And a stallion replies by pointing out that he's not leading it yet. Communicating this way is tiring, but even relaxation can say something about native exuberance. Nodding heads, prancing feet, and bared teeth all mean something profound between zebras. Then the time comes for talk to stop, as reality walks through. Lions don't travel with the herds. They can't. A pride's domain is exactly as large as the territory it can defend against other prides. The grazer's migration crosses a veritable map of lion territories, each with its border controls against the neighboring lions. But the grazers, of course, are welcome to wander through, if they pay a toll. Predators take about 8% of all the animals on the trek. Crocodile, the stories say, is the other important chief. His domain is the water, his people, the fish, and the reptiles. And the other crocodiles, too. He's a constant annoyance to lions' people because he hides under the water and attacks them when they come to drink. And then he and his tribe tear them to pieces. It's a simple act, drinking water, but Crocodile turns it into a matter of life or death. Even the mongooses, who are known as the sharp-toothed people and can terrorize most potential predators, become wary at the riverside. Baboons, wildebeests, all come to the water's edge, and even though they're desperate with thirst, take their drinks with the greatest trepidation. In the stories, the land animals are always trying to think of ways to outwit Crocodile, and in reality it is a sort of game. The wildebeests not only need to drink, they have to cross the river. As the herd piles up behind, it becomes a matter of urgency to find a winning strategy. The critical question is just how hungry the crocodiles are. The wildebeests don't know that they've just finished tearing apart some other animal. And what they can't be expected to know, although they may sense it, is that crocodiles, being cold-blooded, don't need to eat nearly as often as mammals do. And one good bout of carnage can keep several of them happy for several days. In the end, there's only one thing to do. Send out a volunteer. The reconnaissance report is hopeful, but who can be sure? The moral of most of the stories about Crocodile is that whatever he promises, he can't be trusted. Still, climbing onto a rock should be a pretty good sign. Not good enough, though. In the end, the wildebeests decide to try another crossing, one without so many crocs, perhaps. What the crocodiles are actually doing when they're basking is saving themselves the need to eat more animals. They're absorbing energy directly from the sun, something the other creatures don't always appreciate. Lions and other warm-blooded animals don't need to do this. They mainly eat to keep their energy up. It's a reptile way of living that has worked, and worked well, for more than 250 million years. That's about 5 times as long as there have even been such things as mammals. In fact, when dinosaurs appeared on Earth, the reptiles were already here. And when dinosaurs came to riverbanks to drink, there were animals just like this, waiting to drag them under. Are the dinosaurs really extinct? A lot of scientists maintain that birds are their direct descendants, dinosaurs in a modern form. With most birds, that takes a stretch of the imagination, but with ostriches, it's easy to see something in the theory. Many dinosaurs were about this size, 8 feet tall, and their nests were bowls scraped in the ground. One very common type walked and ran on 2 legs. What else dinosaurs did involves a lot of conjecture. But here's a living ostrich. The male sitting on the nest, waiting for the female to take her turn. And her turn doesn't come very often. He does almost all the sitting, because all of the eggs are his. Only a few are hers. The rest were laid by the other 2 members of his harem, which she chased away as soon as they'd made their contributions. Sometimes ostrich harems are larger. One nest was once reported to have 60 eggs in it. How many chicks survive, though, depends on the quality of the vegetation. And, as wet seasons go, this is a very wet one, with the grazing animals knee-high in the volcanic grass. And a bonanza of seeds and berries for the ostriches. A clutch of just a dozen chicks has every chance in the world, although they do have a lot of growing to do. They may have hatched out of the world's largest eggs and begun life the size of grown quail, but they've only got 1 year to become the biggest birds in the world, from less than a pound to more than 300, almost as much as an adult lioness. For the duration of the dry season, the young ostriches will survive on the leaves of succulents, industriously converting volcanic minerals into flesh and bone of ostrich. And when a year has gone, they'll be as big as their parents. Taller than almost any other animal around, faster than any of them, even the gazelles, and trotting across the plains in a style pioneered 200 million years ago by the two-legged dinosaurs. The more things change, the more they stay the same. A story from Botswana, at the southern end of the Great Grasslands. Once upon a time, when baboon, like all monkeys, lived in trees, Leopard, who was scratching himself on a branch, asked Baboon to stop and pick his fleas, the most friendly thing one animal can do for another. Baboon obliged, and Leopard was so soothed by the grooming that he fell asleep. Baboon, who could never resist the temptation to make mischief, tied Leopard's tail to the branch and ran off laughing. A furious Leopard was stuck there for a day before Snail came by and untied him. After that, Baboon had to leave the forest and go and live on the plains. And, sure enough, baboons are among the few monkeys in the world that don't live in trees. Although many baboons do prefer the high ground of these rocky outcrops, known as koppies. There's a story to explain that, too. Long ago, baboon and pig used to live together on a hillside. On one very cold day, they were sitting next to each other in a patch of sunshine, trying to get warm. "I've never known it so cold," said Baboon. "It's enough to make your nose flat." "Yes," said Pig. "And enough to freeze the hair off your behind." "Don't get personal," said Baboon. "You started it," Pig said. "Maybe," said Baboon, "but what I said wasn't as bad as what you said." And the two old friends began to fight. Afterwards, Pig moved to the flatlands, and Baboon went to live on the koppie, and they never spoke to each other again. There might even be another explanation of why baboons have come to live up here. Once upon a time, all monkeys, all primates, did live in trees. Hands became hands, after all, in order to pick fruit and grasp branches. Then there were great geological changes in this part of Africa, and the forests were replaced by grassy plains. And the baboons were caught on the hop. They had to live on the ground. So did another primate, the human. Many baboons solved the problem by retreating to koppies. Humans came up with other solutions. A day in the life of the sharp-toothed people. Up on the koppie, banded mongooses keep a lookout for would-be predators, which, for them, are usually jackals. Jackals are among the smaller wild dogs, and mongooses are about the size of rabbits, the size of animal they're used to catching. But for some reason, mongooses are damnably hard to catch. Impossible. Which only seems to make the jackals more determined to catch one. It's an instance of life imitating Tom and Jerry. The jackals could, at this moment, be looking for rats or stealing from vultures. Eating. Instead, they're on a mongoose chase. As for the mongooses, the jackals only occupy half their attention. The other half is down there. Dung beetles, the capitalists of the plains. Dung is valuable stuff. all those nutritious minerals have come up through the soil in the form of grass and have then been specially processed into energy-packed pies. It's every male dung beetle's lifetime aspiration to roll up a bigger piece of pie than any other male dung beetle. And every jackal's aspiration to catch a mongoose. Mongooses, for their part, aren't so compulsive. They just want to eat. And it happens that dung beetles are tasty and are so preoccupied that they're easy to catch. And the reason they're preoccupied with accruing the biggest piece of dung, the reason they will fight over dung, is not that they want to eat it, though they do eat a little. It's that female dung beetles all want to mate with the male who has the most. The dung ball is where the female lays her eggs. But neither sex has anything to do with the dung of lions, only that of herbivores, such as elephants. And the reason mongooses are impossible to catch is that they're not like hares or rats. They operate in a pack, just the same as jackals, except much tighter. But while jackals sometimes use the pack system for hunting, mongooses have dung beetles and don't have to hunt. Their pack is purely for defence. If a jackal ever did catch one, it might wish it hadn't. Cheetahs are well known for being solitary animals. Aren't they? Okay, sometimes they're not. Sometimes litter mates, on their own for the first time and still not very good at hunting, will stick together. A cheetah's life is hard enough as it is. If it could, it would probably choose to be a lion. Big, strong, capable of taking big creatures that make big meals. But it's a sports car of an animal with a small tank. If it doesn't get regular refills, it could starve. The trouble is, catching a hare takes almost a hare's worth of energy. To get something bigger, the young cheetahs can at least try a lion-type strategy. Teamwork. A relay system. Still, a young gazelle cut 3 ways is about the same as a hare each. For the rest of its life, this cheetah is going to be beset by knife-edge energy equations. This is the fastest land animal in the world, with a sprint speed of 60 miles an hour, the only animal that by itself can catch a gazelle. And it got that way by catching gazelles. Over millions of years, as cheetahs got faster, gazelles got faster. And as gazelles got faster, cheetahs got faster still. Gazelles learned to cut and jink. Cheetahs became more intelligent and more lithe. In the end, a fat-free, fine-boned, alert and absolutely beautiful piece of animal engineering that will die if it doesn't get a kill at least once in 4 attempts. It can't kill big animals, can't defend its food from any other predators, can't work well in a team, and has a cub mortality rate of more than 90%, many of them killed by lions. It's as if nature had indulged in a luxury and let the cheetah itself pay the price. Tanzania, home of the famous Serengeti, and on the fringes of the Serengeti, the great Acacia woodlands. Home of the famous lovebird, a 7-inch long parrot whose name is more often applied to certain types of people than to the bird itself. Acacia trees are pioneers. By rights, only grass should grow here. But acacias, by spreading their roots wide and keeping their leaves watertight, have managed to invade and settle. And to ward off the local hordes of mammals and birds, the trees have armed their branches with murderous thorns. Which means that lovebirds have to bite them off before they can use those branches to make their nests. That they have to tiptoe around the little daggers as they gather the newly grown sprigs. Lovebirds colonize the acacias, use them for everything, including a platform for their most important activity: behaving like lovebirds. The odd occasion when a lovebird finds itself alone is like a dateless Saturday night. It can only wash its hair, that is, preen its feathers. One by one, every primary, axillary and covert, every bristle, shaft and phyloplume. A bird has to keep its feathers clean, obviously. But carried to this extreme, preening becomes a form of sexual display. And a way of getting back on the lovebird circuit. Once lovebirds have paired, they are inseparable. This is very romantic, of course, but there's also some logic behind it. Male logic. There are other males all over the tree, and the only way he can be sure that all the eggs she lays are his is to keep up the kissing. Even so, when she finally does lay, there seem to be a lot of other males taking an interest. But let them. The eggs are definitely his. They have to be. Don't they? In the African stories, elephant is one of the most staunchly loyal members of lion's tribe. He's very handy, particularly in arguments with crocodile, because he has a way of picking up crocodile with his trunk and smashing him against a tree. This usually settles the matter, whatever it is, and elephant just walks away and goes on grazing, as if nothing ever happened. Crocodile always survives these encounters. He has to. He's like Darth Vader and is needed for the next story. The trees, though, don't usually fare so well. In fact, elephant often knocks them down, even without crocodile as an excuse. This has given him a reputation of being grumpy, careless, and hard to control, and lion is reluctant to call on him except as a last resort. Oddly enough, managers of national parks and game reserves for a long time regarded elephants in much the same way. They destroyed trees, they said, and denuded the landscape. But it's now widely accepted that the ecosystem depends on elephants doing that, to keep the trees thinned out and the grass healthy. In many places now, the herds are left to live as they have for the past 10 or so million years. This is a family of related females and their babies. As the young ones begin to jockey for position in the herd's future hierarchy, a process otherwise known as playing, they are looked after by their big sisters, aunts, cousins, and mothers. All answerable ultimately to a grandmother, a matriarch. The future for the young bulls is a life of wandering alone on the fringes of the female herd, and perhaps in frustration, knocking down trees. Weeding the grasslands for lions' livestock, reassuming their old job as the real managers of the landscape. Not just a pretty face. A craftsman. From a distance, this may look like some kind of gourd tree in fruit. But in fact, it's an acacia with hanging baskets. Weaver birds are setting up a colony. Most male birds, if they're ever going to mate, have to do something to prove to a female that they're worth mating with. Some sing. Some fan out their tails. There are even some that jump up and down. Weaver birds weave. In the process, they make useful nests, which is an improvement on jumping up and down. But to a male, that's almost beside the point. He's simply following the blueprint in his instincts and trying to meet certain feminine specifications. If he fails, and who knows what slip stitch he might be downgraded on, he'll end up with a nest and nothing in it. He signs off his work with a wing display and then goes away to await the verdict. The competition is intense and the inspections are rigorous. Is it waterproof? Is the internal platform level, with just enough of a sag to hold the eggs? Is it steady enough in the wind? Could a snake conceivably get in? One after another, the females compare the nests, which is a good reason for having them all in the same tree. A male that can't find any takers has to go back to the drawing board and work out where he's failed. And if he finally does figure it out, he graduates from builder to hunter. And the bird indoors can now judge him on the quality of the insects he's brought. And there are enough rejects to feed a waiting school of catfish. Time passes, and the demand increases with the number of mouths. In this colony, and all along the river, male weaver birds are shoveling insects into upside-down doorways, feeding mates, chicks, and catfish. The male weaver bird is as industrious as the male lion seems lazy. Weaver birds never go in the water themselves, but by just hanging their nests above it, they become part of the river ecosystem. Honorary members of Crocodiles tribe. And this is Crocodile's answer to elephant. And if elephant is occasionally irascible, Hippo is simply bad-tempered. He especially doesn't like sharing his river with boats, and more people are killed or injured by hippos than any other mammal in Africa. But in another way, the animals are softy. In adapting to life in the water, hippos have developed a tissue paper skin, unable to tolerate the sun. That means they have to stay in the water when the sun's shining, which would be fine, except that they're also grazing animals. And that means before they can eat, they have to wait for a dark cloud, or for nightfall. They live in the water and eat on the land. It would be enough to make anybody bad-tempered. They might have had a sweeter nature if they'd gone the way of some of their relatives, animals with whom they share a distant hippo-like ancestor, the great whales. Some people say there's a story that Chief Lion tells his children. Listen, says the chief, and I'll tell you about Liu, the great-grandfather of us all. He was much better than us, because he could fly. Liu had wings like a huge bat, and he could soar away on the wind. He would look down, and if he saw some zebras, he would swoop down and grab one. But Liu was afraid of one thing, that the bones of the animals he ate might be broken. No one knew why that frightened him, but he made 2 white crows guard his bones night and day. Then, one morning when Liu was flying over the plains, Bullfrog went to the white crows and said that he would guard the bones so that they could have some time off. And they agreed. When they flew away, Bullfrog broke all the bones, and somewhere over the plains, Liu fell to the ground. "Someone's broken the bones," he said, "and that's broken my charm." Then he saw the white crows flying overhead, and he leapt to catch them, but he couldn't. He couldn't catch zebras either until he taught himself stealth and all the other skills we lions have today. But we still can't catch birds, even though every time one flies near us, we try. Imagine that you'd never seen this animal before. What would you name it? Long neck, right? Anybody would. Its neck is so preposterous, it's hard to notice anything else about it. Yet, when the Arabs first saw the animal, they named it giraffe, which means fast runner. It has long legs and can run fast, but so can a lot of animals, including lions. And when the modern Europeans first saw it, and needed a Latin name for it, they called it camelopardus, which means spotted camel. It's almost as though they were embarrassed by the neck and refrained from referring to it, like some kind of disadvantage. A disadvantage it definitely isn't. It gives the giraffe exclusive access to a level of vegetation that no other mammal can reach. And most other mammals wouldn't be able to eat these acacia tops even if they could reach them. The trees are covered with thorns, and the leaves are like rubber. But the giraffe's lips and tongue are like even tougher rubber, and the thorns go down like peanuts. Even rubber lips would be a better name than spotted camel. All this altitude means a lot of surface area, which means a lot of ticks and a full-time job for an oxpecker. An oxpecker with a giraffe is as wealthy as a farmer with 1,000 acres. And sometimes there's even a well on the property. But it's when a giraffe itself goes to drink that it pays the price for its neck. It's an animal with a brain 10 feet above its heart. To get blood all the way up there takes one of the biggest hearts in the whole animal kingdom. 25 pounds, beating at 200 strokes a minute. A flamingo has a long neck too, but it keeps it bent, or puts its head down, and its heart doesn't have to work so hard. But with all that heart power, if a giraffe ever put its head below its chest, its brain would explode. Except that the giraffe does, and the brain doesn't. That's because the arteries and veins in the neck are extremely elastic and have a complex valve system that shuts them down every time the animal stoops to drink. Flamingo is Portuguese for firebird. What would you call it? Chief Lion has some little sisters, including the serval, her ears peeled for rustlings in the grass. In fact, the whole cat family is divided into two kinds, large and small, and there are more differences between them than just their size. For instance, small cats can't roar. They tend not to have any voice at all. They're almost always loners and usually hunt only at night. Small cats hunt smaller animals than big cats do, of course, but they hunt more kinds, from perching birds, such as guinea fowl, to rats and mice trying to sneak out of their burrows at night. Some animals that people call cats aren't. This is known as a civet cat, but it's actually a relative of badgers and otters. It does hunt the same sort of prey, but while a civet relies mainly on its nose, a serval is a master of acoustics with ears like satellite dishes. A small cat's hunting grounds are virtually any place that can offer something to eat. In some parts of the world, there are cats that specialize in fishing. If a serval happens to be hungry enough, it could probably catch a fish too. But there are usually easier things in and around the water. Insects, creek rats, salamanders, and bullfrogs. Altogether, there are 28 different kinds of small cats in the world. That includes the house cat, which is descended from the African wild cat, an animal that's also found in these woodlands. In the African stories, the small cats are always the best dancers and jumpers. But because they don't have voices like Chief Lion, they can't sing. Generally, the only small cats that do make noise are the kittens, which can mew. Of course, adult house cats can mew, but they only do it when they're talking to humans. And that's the truth. Many of the animals and habitats you've seen in these programs are now in danger because of the greed and thoughtlessness of man. Worldwide Fund for Nature, in association with Reader's Digest Video, is working constantly to prevent extinction of animals and loss of their vital habitat. You can become a part of this crucial work by joining WWF or donating to WWF campaigns throughout the world. You'll find the forms you need in the Reader's Digest video pack. Thank you.